Do I have a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Roberts and Dr. Roundtree. Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond, Ms. Franklin,
No, yes.
Dr. Guidry,
Yes.
Ms. Pardon,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree,
Yes.
Ms. Purcell.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to certify closed session that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Franklin and Mr. Roberts. Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Dr. Guidry,
Yes.
Ms. Pardon,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree,
Yes.
Ms. Purcell.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel report as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Roberts and Dr. Roundtree, any discussion? Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
No.
Dr. Guidry,
Yes.
Ms. Pardon, Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree,
Yes.
Ms. Purcell.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed.
Motion carries. Our next agenda item is public address. We welcome the opportunity to hear from students, parents, employees, and community members about education matters in this community. As a reminder, the board sets aside 30 minutes to start our public address. We have the option to extend in 30-minute increments, which Ms. Reed will remind us of. If there are additional speakers after 90 minutes, the board will continue with their business meeting and hold one additional 30-minute session at the end of the business meeting. The clock continues through applause and disruptions. The more disruptions there are, the fewer speakers who get to address the board. I will call each speaker up by name in the order in which they signed up. Each speaker has 3 minutes to address the board. The board does not respond to speakers during public address. The screens will show when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when time is up. And currently, there is no one signed up for public address. So we will consider public address closed. That moves us into our business meeting. The first item on the agenda is NRV Reset, an educational therapeutic day treatment school. Rob Graham, Superintendent of Pulaski County Public Schools, presented information on this Regional Therapeutic Day Center, NRV Reset, at our May 5th, 2026 meeting. The item is brought back tonight for board approval to support the project. Do I have a motion to approve Montgomery County Public Schools support for the NRV Reset Educational Therapeutic Day Treatment School?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Roundtree and Ms. Parton, any discussion?
So I have a question. So this is only to say we are supporting it? Does it mean we're giving some kind of financial support? What's happening with this?
Dr. Gimple, do you want to address that?
Sure. There is a cost associated with this. It's on your budget report. It's going to be around $75,000 for us to take part in this. So it's divided, which you can see the total here, about $350,000 divided by 4 school divisions. This does not enter us into that agreement. This is just your board support. I think in the past, the proclamation that you saw last time was signed by your previous superintendent. I don't even know how much you guys were aware of what was going on there. I talked to Rob today. He is going to submit another proclamation after we vote on this. which would include us in there. My signature is the only one on there. Of course, I'm not signing anything without your approval. That's not the way I'm going to operate. But last week when Rob came, I did ask him not to show that proclamation because I didn't want to see that with one of the school divisions that was listed there had dropped out, and it also had the previous superintendent's name on it. I just didn't think it was appropriate, but and I knew he was going to do a new copy once he had commitment from at least 4 of our divisions. So with your approval tonight, we should be getting another proclamation here within a week or so, and I'll certainly show that to you all. And that's the agreement that we would sign then.
Thank you, Dr. Gimple. Are there other questions? Mr. Roberts, do you have a question?
No.
Dr. Kittrey?
Yeah, just really quick. So, Ms. Franklin, that's the question. I just want to make sure. So we're committing the 75 tonight if we approve. It's not just we like this program, but we're
Right, that would be the financial commitment, and we are going to be looking for grants. Matt Dunleavy is actually taking the lead on that for this program. There are some grants out there that would fund this type of a program, and we're hoping to secure some of those. But at the most, right now, it would be $75,000. And Angie, I think that it also included transportation. You put that in there as well. So we tried to include all the different things we could think of that would, add up to that cost.
Can I ask one more question? So if we do commit the 75, do you know, and I've not been able to review this, will we be allocated a certain number of slots? How's that going to work?
Yes, sir. So we're starting off with like 5 students per division. We're going to begin with that. And again, it's serving elementary through middle, which is sort of a difficult population to find therapeutic care for right now, right, without sending them sometimes, well out of the area.
Okay, thank you.
And Dr. Gimple, there was a hope that maybe this would be open for the 26-27 school year, like as of this
Yeah,
fall?
we have everything in place to get going for this coming fall. And, we're starting off with 5, and the hope, there's space to expand, but we figured we'd start slow, start with a manageable number there. We can add always later. We're hoping to get some grants in place in order to add some more students because the cost would rise, right, per student. But right now, that $75,000 would cover 5 of our students being able to attend.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Gittrey?
Yes.
Ms. Pardon?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes,
7 in favor.
motion carries. Okay. Next, we have the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget discussion. Angie Bland, our Director of Finance, and Trevor Bennett, our Assistant Director of Finance, are available for questions. This is information only, and no action is expected. So I know you're available for questions, but do you want to kind of give us any overview, just kind of a place to set us up from? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Gimple. This evening, Mr. Bennett and I will provide some additional information regarding the 2026-2027 budget. On April 20th, the Board of Supervisors approved the 5-cent real estate tax increase and adopted the 26-27 budget. This decision was made after careful consideration and thoughtful discussion. As a result, the school district will receive an additional $4.1 million in county funding above the current fiscal year allocation. Combined with the state funding, currently available, these resources will allow the division to support several important district initiatives. And I'm actually going to go back. I apologize. I do want to mention a little bit about the General Assembly. I think we've all seen quite a bit about that. I unfortunately do not have an update on that. On April 22nd, the session ended without final approval of the state budget. At this time, no future meeting date has been scheduled for the state to group back to work again on budget. While this delay is creating some uncertainty, all indications are showing us that both the governor and the General Assembly are still strongly wanting to support education and believe that additional state funding is coming. We remain optimistic that the state funding will be provided. However, it may be later in June before a final budget would be approved. So as soon as that updated information becomes available, we will come back and share the information here with you. But in the meantime, the division must move forward with the current state funding as it stands in order to meet the required budget timelines and our operational deadlines. This next slide outlines the administration's recommendations for the additional budget line items proposed for approval. These recommendations were developed with several important considerations in mind. First and foremost is employee compensation and the issuance of employee contracts for the upcoming school year. Typically, that would need to begin around June 1st in order to meet all the timeframes to allow to have the resources to allocate the teachers needed for the next school year. In order to move forward with these contracts, final compensation decisions should be made very soon. Without the board action, the contracts would need to be issued first without any salary increase and revised at a later date once the budget could be revised with any additional state funding that might be received. This could create some pretty significant challenges, as you're aware, for both recruitment and for retention. The administration looked at all the proposed personnel additions, and the positions on the list that are recommended this evening were determined to benefit the most students at this time. There are several positions that you'll see on the next slide. While also very important, we tried to include teaching positions because we realized that this is really the time frame where those positions need to be advertised and need to be hired for at this time in order to reach out for teacher positions. A couple of notes. There are 3 assistant principals here for elementary. Those were the 3 that were approved in the current fiscal year, so that's just a line item to approve that for the next year's budget. Just below that, you'll see 2 instructional coaches. There was a recommendation for 3 additional assistant principals, and those that were at the larger elementary schools. And some of the discussions following those discussions with those principals, they expressed that instructional coaches at this time would serve as the most benefit to their schools. Instructional coaches at this time, they're finding really have a great benefit to the schools and what the current needs are. The needs tend to be more in the classroom, supporting teachers, especially the newer teachers coming in. And assistant principal positions, well, very, very important. Sometimes we'll get called up in some of the other administrative and discipline matters. And what they're really looking for in support tends to be more directly in the classroom. In addition, there were 2 ESL teachers. Now you see there's only 1. Last year, there was a conversion of one of the ESL teacher positions. There was some difficulty filling that position, and the state allowed at that time for 2 paras to fill that position in place of the teacher because we were unable to fill it. And that's been working very well, but at this time, there are some applications and there's some interest in ESL positions. There are para positions that are open, so we would be able to move those 2 paras into current positions and provide that opportunity then to fill that with a teacher. And the next one is the alternative education program. That was included with a larger estimate when it was originally proposed to the board, and there was a a $200,000 estimate. The actual teacher estimates are $10,000 less per teacher, so that is a $20,000 reduction. So that's why you see that slightly reduced. And then we'll go to the next slide. So this next slide, if you'll see the total considerations, the $3.8 million, that is the total required budget reduction based on the county's adopted budget and the state funding at this time. So it's important to note that the administration carefully evaluated all of these requested line items. In the recommendations on the previous slide were based on school board discussions and priorities. Every one of these are needs, not wishes, obviously. And we still feel very optimistic that at a later date we're going to be able to come back and, based on that additional funding, probably take care of the majority of these items. If you're familiar, on the VDOE site, under the calc tool, the budget information is available. Anyone can come and take a look at that at the moment. You just select the district and they'll give you all information. There are two crossover scenarios, both one for the Senate and one for the House. And both of those show an increase in funding. Education is not a heavy discussion item for the General Assembly. I believe education will be supported. The House crossover provides the most funding, so we'll hope for the House crossover to pass if that's what happens. But in both scenarios, I believe we'll be able to come back and take care of that funding. The biggest thing to note on that, because of the timeline, we do have to move forward with this discussion this evening. There's no action that's required of you at this time. This is just an opportunity to discuss the budget. And then we have the public hearing that is set for May 19th. And then a date, I think, is being set here soon for the actual vote. And that budget, once it's set, will go to the county. Their appropriation is on June 8th. So it is very unlikely that before June 8th, unless something happens very, very soon, that we'll have additional state funding. So anything that would come forward after that date, we will come back. Decisions will be made about what you would want to approve and move forward with that additional funding. And then it would need to go to the Board of Supervisors for a supplemental appropriation to the budget that they will have already passed. And that is all the information that we have at this time. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bland. Board members who would like to start with questions? Sure, Dr. Guitry.
I'm going to just start with a code question. So have we received estimates from the state? And that's what our budget is currently based on?
That is correct. So the state amount is based on the calculation tool. And so that was created in December.
Okay.
And so changes would not result, on that actual calculation tool until the budget is actually approved. But the crossover is actually a separate link that you can take a look at. So they have listed both the Senate proposed and the House proposed. And you can see all the information on there and the additional funding that each area is proposing based on counties.
Okay. Okay, great, because I was just looking at 22-193, and it says there we have to approve by May 15th. Whatever's later, either after the estimates or by prepare and approve by May 15th. So that's why I was asking that question.
Right. So it's we didn't have the county's approval until a period of time. So we have a period of time beyond once the county has approved for us to go back and then give our budget. So there's several processes in that code. So once the county gives their adopted budget, then we have a period of time to do that. Now the county has to do theirs. I believe June 8th is their date. They may have a few more days on that. They may have until June 15th.
Okay, because the way that I read it is that there are two sections, but the 122-193 says, notwithstanding the other provision in the code, including Chapter 25, that we have to prepare and approve by May 15th. Am I misunderstanding?
That's if you have a state adopted budget. Yes, or 30 days. So we do not yet have an actual state-approved budget.
Right,
So
that's
we're
why-
still in that process, yes.
So I asked that question because it says it doesn't require the final approval of the budget. As I read it, it's either what's required is the estimate from the state.
And that's what we have currently in our provision, yes.
Right, so in that part, it says that by May 15th, if we have that estimate, if we've had that estimate, it's within 30 days of that estimate or by May 15th. So am I misunderstanding what's required of us?
Right,
I
yes.
think that
Yes.
language pertains more to the county, so they have to approve their budget by May 15th. We have the obligation to prepare a budget for them prior to that,
Right, okay, okay.
and they've met that commitment.
Right, they did that part, but then we have to do the line, like, we have to do the next step, which is to actually approve the budget, the final, yeah, okay.
Correct.
Board members, other questions? I have a question. So, on the additional budget considerations page, where it says, health insurance employer costs 3%, does that mean that health insurance premiums would go up for MCPS employees if we didn't have the funds to cover that?
No, at this time, so that request was not for employees at all. This is an increase for the employer portion of the insurance. And this is just to fund what we think will be an increase for the employer side. Because we're self-insured, we wouldn't have to do that, but to allow to continue to support that, the self-insurance fund, makes the most sense. But no, there's no requested increase to employees. Their amount would stay the same.
So that goes into the health savings reserve?
So
Or
actually,
this
that
is
goes into our
other?
operating budget.
Okay,
So
okay.
the way it basically works is that each month when we receive the bill, we pay to that reserve, we pay the employees portion and the employer portion, and that goes towards that fund, and then that's how we pay our claims. So increasing that by the 3% will just to allow us to have a little bit more of a cushion in there based on the fact that, medical claims are going up, although we did have a brief discussion, Dr. Gimple and Trevor and I, so we met with our insurance advisors, and for this past year, some of our medical claims they're actually down by about 4%, which is pretty amazing, given that medical rises are costing. So a lot of preventative care is taking place, a lot of wellness visits, so I think that's helping with our insurance costs. So we've done a great job with that.
Excellent. I appreciate that clarification. Thank you. Board members, are there any other questions? Oh, Ms. Parton, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm looking here on the amounts for, I want to say basically the positions that we've got listed on that first page where it says administration recommendation. Are those amounts that are given beside those different positions, are those including benefits and everything, or is that just pay?
Yes, ma'am, that includes benefits.
Okay, so we're looking at the total amount, that's the total cost it would be altogether.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I got a couple more questions. So I noticed that under the additional budget considerations that we're not funding the 2 behavioral specialists, the speech therapist, and the contract services for speech services. So I understand we're hoping that the state, gives us more money. So my understanding that we put those in because of our obligation. So why would we not prioritize those if we put them in the budget because we're like, we have a state requirement and we're not we need these positions in order to meet that requirement. So can you help me understand why we might not prioritize that over some of the other items?
Absolutely, and they're a critical need. We've been very fortunate to fill some of our speech therapists, but an additional 2 would hopefully remove all the need for those contracted services. A couple of the reasons that the other positions, you see the marketing teacher and the EMT teacher that are on there, teachers, it's really due to the timing of this right now. So it's important to get teacher positions approved sooner rather than some other positions, just because right now teachers are being grabbed up, by most districts. And in order to meet that, we need to do that sooner rather than later. Knowing this additional funding may not come until a period of time, that would delay being able to post those positions. For the behavior specialist, the interpreter, and the speech therapist, very important and very, very much needed positions. However, those you can fill in August or even September if necessary. Worst case scenario, and we're hoping this doesn't happen, but if we did have a budget shortfall and we would have to look at that, you could also still continue to contract for those positions. Right now, the need for that is already there. It's been there all of this year. We've just been using the contracted services to do that. Our hopes are if we can fill these positions, that'll do away with it. And those costs are much higher than actually fulfilling those positions. They are very necessary.
Okay, great. So the reason I'm probing a little bit here is that, and this goes back to the initial conversation about the alternative education program, was we approved the construction side, but I wasn't confident, like, are we going to have the funding? So I'm trying to balance this because we're trying to add a service that will benefit students certainly, but it's a new program. So as we're looking at cutting our initial requests, why would we not prioritize some of these other needs that we've said that we've needed, that were mandated to? Why wouldn't we prioritize them? Because that would be a new hire as well, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yes. And that's certainly the reason why you're here this afternoon, is to have that discussion. At the end of the day, when you go to vote on the budget that will be moved forward to the county, you can certainly select from those positions and you can make decisions, if you feel the priority is more to fill these positions and not some of those teacher positions, then that certainly, would be a board decision. And you can, this is what, the administration's reviewed. We know that all of these considerations are very important. These are, definite needs of the district, but it's certainly your opportunity to prioritize those. These are just suggested recommendations.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know if other fellow board members have any thoughts about that. I would like to make sure that we're meeting these basic obligations, and I would love to be able to add that additional opportunity for our students who have been disciplined and need extra support. I'm leaning toward making sure that we have. It would be one thing if it's about retention, if there were certain teachers that we were going to lose, if we don't include them in the budget. But these would be new. My understanding would be new hires. So what's the difference? I don't know if any other board members have any thoughts about that.
So let me, for clarification, what I heard you say was, as far as behavior specialists and speech therapists, we have been able to hire folks, and these positions would just eliminate the contracted services. So it's not that we would not be in compliance if these weren't filled. It's just, this would just be that extra boost that we were looking for.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. We're fulfilling all of the obligations to those students. We are doing that through the employees that we've hired as well as the contracted services. Now, obviously, contracted services are a little more expensive, and it's always best if you can hire an employee and have them work full time. But we are currently meeting those needs of those students, but we're just doing that through contracted services. So hiring these positions would eliminate that service.
Could I just follow up on that? So how much are we paying for the contract services for those 4 positions? Does it amount to significantly more than hiring in those positions? And would it make sense to hire for those positions so that you could free up the contracting funds for the alternative education?
So it depends on each one of those positions. There's different companies that we work with, but you can assume about 25 to 30% higher for that, based on the position amount. Now, benefits are another area because of course we're not paying benefits to contracted services, but it's 25 to 30% higher in most cases.
Okay, so that's what my question would be, is why not hire instead of using the contract to free up the funds in order to fund the alternative? Because this is 210, 310, that's 400,000 approximately, and if it's 30% more, it doesn't cover all of that cost, but that's a good chunk of money.
Ms. Bland, do you remember specifically what the positions are for that alternative program?
I believe it was 2 teaching positions.
So being able to advertise for those positions, kind of have them in place, would be, again, to just kind of clarify, would be brand new rather than,
Correct. Yes. So that would be hiring 2 teacher positions.
do other board members have any interest in replacing any of the recommended positions with some of the additional or the budget additions that should be something we can consider when the state comes through?
Chair Purcell, I did have a question kind of about that topic. I don't know if it's necessarily saying I want to change anything at this point without knowing more, but wouldn't some of these positions in administration recommendation or additional budget considerations have to do with student enrollment? Wouldn't some of these tie into enrollment, I would think?
Possibly it could, yes, absolutely. At this time, I know, based on enrollment, I think I think it's been established, as far as classroom sizes, and I think we're in a good place with those. The teachers that you see, the CTE marketing teacher, that has just not been available in that area, and we were doing that for more purposes of equality, to offer that same opportunity for the students in those other schools. And then the EMT teacher, that is a new opportunity, but I know it's something that's been discussed many times with the board, and it's a very exciting opportunity for the students. And the ESL teacher, those are actually SOQ required, so we're required to have so many ESL teachers based on the student population for that program.
So I'm all in favor for the CTE teachers, and I know we've needed the emergency medical technician teacher. I just was glancing at some of the other ones and was thinking that there might be a possibility with some enrollment, and I know we won't know that until school starts, so it might be kind of hard to do anything with that, but just thought maybe enrollment might play some sort of, point us maybe in a direction, because I know we're going to have to make some decisions, so I'm just trying to figure out a way that we could be smart.
Right now, our ADM, we're hitting very close. Our estimates have been very good, but we do see that small decline each year.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
So your question, Madam Chair, for me, having a lot of discussion at this point about what we will cut. I would prefer to wait to see how much money we'll get from the state so that we see how much we will keep, and then have the discussion where we might have to make adjustments at that time.
So I think we're in limbo. The discussion at this point is probably not going to be very beneficial for anyone. I hate to say it, but we just got to wait. So I think we just leave it where it is, keep our fingers crossed. I'll stop being so pragmatic, and maybe some more money will come through.
Dr. Roundtree?
Sure, I'll say a few words. Yeah, I get the point about selecting what we're moving forward with. We're pretty certain that we're going to end up with more funding, so we'll be able to fill some of these other positions. The items that the administration has put forth to us all look like considerable needs, and they are put forth in a manner to fulfill hiring that are needed contracts that need to be put in place before the school system and before other districts snap up teachers. So I think it's a good suggestion for an imperfect solution.
Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Dr. Gitry?
I guess not if nobody else wants to do any substitutions for those positions.
Okay. Thank you so much for the context and for being here tonight. We appreciate it. So the public hearing about the budget as it stands will be during our May 19th meeting, which is technically a work session, but we usually have other things in there as well. Our next regular meeting is June 2nd, and tentatively we have our budget vote scheduled for May 28th. If there are no other questions or concerns, oh, go ahead.
I'm going to make a comment. Then this kind of goes back to last week. Don't worry, it's not about policy. So we had the Donovan Group presentation, and something that came up was the 10-year plan. I want to keep stepping on the gas on that. And the reason I'm bringing that up now is the more we can key in the Board of Supervisors on where we're looking to go 5, 10, or 15 years down the road, the more we're going to avoid running into budgetary issues. I have a sneaking suspicion that if we ask the Board of Supervisors for money, and I'm not poo-pooing Donovan Group, I was pretty impressed with them, but I think we should consider keying the Board of Supervisors in, asking them for funds for a significant 10-year policy or a 10-year plan, including things like engineering reports. We're going to need things on population estimates. I suspect that the $48,000 that Donovan Group wouldn't even come close to paying for what a 10-year plan is actually going to cost. So the reason I'm bringing it up is I'm more than happy to reach out to people on the Board of Supervisors to see if they have some money that they could allocate for us to use to get this moving. I just want to put that out there. I'm not trying to pressure anybody, but I'm going to keep being insufferable about it until we start getting it moving in the right direction.
So can I add to that? And I'll just keep going back. 2006, both the boards sat down, came up with a plan about capital projects and how we were going to move forward with things on their side, our side. What you're talking about is a little more in depth, which is great. And then all kinds of things happened. Blacksburg roof fell in, the economy fell out, and the plan just kind of went by the wayside. But I absolutely agree. More planning is always better. So whatever we can do to help with that, and part of that will be with the facilities study that we've had done, and get that all lined out and to show this is what our plan is. Then that will help the whole county move forward, because everybody will know what they need and when it's going to get done.
That is, I have no qualms being a shill and asking for money, so I'm yeah, well, I'm gonna ask them for a substantial amount of money to get this thing going. Who wants to do it with me? Okay, let's go.
Well, I kind of think that's kind of what they just did at the county's expense. But I personally think 10 years is too far out, just because that's kind of what's happened with, I'm going to use Christiansburg High School for an example. We had a plan and everybody put that out there, and then it came in and prices have changed, and then everybody goes, oh my gosh, what happened? Where'd you spend the money? Why didn't you know? So sometimes when you reach that far out, even though, yeah, it's a great idea, things change too much in 10 years. I would personally say 5 years, and those are things we have done before. I mean, we have looked into, looking at and seen what our growth of the county is, and the county itself has got those data, information pieces. So, maybe it might be, instead of asking for money, why don't we just kind of say, hey, what kind of information do you have? What kind of information can you share with us at this point that you're looking at? Because I feel like they've got that already. They have to, in their own budgeting plans. Wouldn't you think?
I'm not sure how much of it they do have. And I'm not just saying blanket, give us money, give us money. I'm saying if we can coordinate with them and come up with some way of having this planning at least moving, it's gonna benefit everybody. I know I've said this before, whoever takes this seat from me next, I don't want them inheriting my mess. So I just want them to know going into it, here's the plan for 5 years, here's the plan for 10, here it is for 15. I get things change. 2006 was 20 years ago, though. So start moving. Well, that's because I wasn't on the board then.
When I met,
You were 19.
But I'm not paying for it, but I don't have a problem asking for it.
Dr. Gempel?
Okay, so I agree with what you're saying, but I think part of our onus is to produce a really solid capital plan going forward. Mike Brown and his team, he has another committee meeting. When's your next meeting? Thursday. It's meeting number 2. He's got folks from the community that are on that, from the Greater Montgomery Building Association. He's got some other folks on there from inside. I think between that committee, really ripping apart that facility plan, he also, we just procured another company that will put that stuff in order for us. If Mike, you want to come up and explain a little bit about Planner? We were planning on showing this to you in the next board meeting, but that's okay.
The spot, no, then we can talk about it then. We can talk about it then.
But this is excellent information for you to have, though, so.
I did not mean to put you on the spot.
He's not on the spot. He's dying to talk about the stuff, so.
Love talking about the CIP. We are currently working on that 10-year CIP. We've already had our first meeting. Our second meeting is scheduled for this Thursday. As Dr. Gempel said, we're ripping through that facility study. We're going to put a timeline together of how we think we can do these projects with a preliminary thought in mind of how they could be financed. What our thought process is this is going to open, once approved by the school board, it's going to open a dialogue with the Board of Supervisors of where the funding is going to come from, how we can fund those, maybe rearrange our timeline a little bit. Currently, we've provided information through the facility study, and in that, it lists every school and the needs and a cost for what we need for every school. It also has a multiplier in there by 3% of every year that addresses, the concern of, well, if we can't do it this year, what's it going to cost next year? What's 3%? So we're working through that. And as stated at the last board meeting, you approved the 27-28 CIP. And the reason why you approved that was so we could apply for school SCAP grant. We're going to build out a 10-year plan. We'll take feedback. You know, if we need to look at maybe a 3, a 5, a 10, we're definitely going to have that timeline in there. This, again, is also a living document. We're going to revisit that. We're making plans to revisit that every year. We actually had our strategic plan meeting today. One of the goals in that is to revisit this document by October of every year so we can get with the Board of Supervisors to discuss funding for the next year's projects. We've got design fees figured into everything. We've got inflation. In the CIP, I'm pulling data from Weldon Cooper on our enrollment through 2030 and a little bit beyond. So we'll have those figures in there. Again, we had a meeting with a company called Planet, Plan-IT. They are a CIP data company. So we will be engaging with them tomorrow in another meeting and probably moving forward with their services. It'll really allow us to very effectively revisit this plan. It'll also tie into our financial department. My grand plan is to work through the committee, work with Dr. Gempel, present it to the board, and then present it to the Board of Supervisors. Part of that is we will take advantage of the Donovan Group to put this into a format that is very presentable, and also with our committee and everything, just assemble a quality CIP for everyone by August 1st or sooner.
I can't argue with that then. But I do want to make sure we're keying the Board of Supervisors so that trying to amend that.
Mr. Roberts, one of the things is when we presented the facility plan to them, they have access to that information. There's facts and figures in there for our future needs. Now, there's no timeline on that. It just tells us what the needs are for every school. So that's one of the things we're going to work through in the CIP is to try to come up with a timeline, come up with realistic expectations as far as funding. One of the things, you know, if we have a school that needs X, Y, and Z, maybe we can break that out and do it in parts, not the whole $30 million, $20 million at one time, maybe stagger that because, you know, it is quite a bit of money to discuss. But you are correct, we're going to need some increased funding for these projects as we move forward. So
We're going to have that book for you really before school begins.
August 1st.
You'll have a hard copy of the CIP going out as far as we can get it.
All right. Didn't mean to steal anybody's thunder. I'll shut up and then everybody can line up and strangle me.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, yeah, we had a 2-year plan that was presented last week, and then, we're putting together a 10-year plan for August, but thank you, Mike.
Again, the 2-year plan is to check a box for our SCAP grant. It also gives preliminary Board of Supervisors for what we're thinking about for the next 2 years worth of projects. Again, we have some funding sources for that. We're hoping, again, if we apply for the SCAP grant, at least for Auburn Elementary, we're going to get at least 20%. So that's a benefit. So that's the purpose of that. Yeah.
Dr. Gitry?
I don't have a question about that. I did have a question about the agenda item, about the upcoming school board meetings. Yeah, so no question for you, something about it's on the agenda. What's that?
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Franklin.
Okay, so the enormous plan that was developed for the school system, has the county been given a copy of that?
I do believe so, yes.
Okay.
They were given a hard drive that contains the entire facility study. So that was delivered to Angie Hill.
And that is also available for public. The public can come in and review that as well.
You guys know that that document was like 9,000 pages, and so Rod Ratcliffe I think he made 5 or 6 of those on hard drives. And we distributed one to the Board of Supervisors, so they would have a copy.
And I am, at any point, if you review that information or the Board of Supervisors reviews that and has a question, I'll be happy through Dr. Gimple or you to answer any questions that may come available on that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Brown.
Thank you.
Dr. Gitry?
Yeah, about upcoming school board meetings. So I know there's discussion about having the vote on the budget on the 28th. I don't know, I know Chair Purcell's talked to, I think, everybody. Those are a really busy couple of days. There's graduation that weekend, and I have family coming in that day on the 28th. Does the 21st, the week earlier, work or anything? I mean,
I have 2 grandchildren graduating in Georgia. I will not be here
on the 21st,
on the 22nd.
on the 22nd.
Yes, I will not be here on the 21st.
Dr. Gitry, I did talk to every board member that responded to me in a timely way.
I just wanted to have a board discussion to see if there might be another day, because it is around graduation, that could accommodate everybody. Now, if the 28th is the only day, I just wanted to be able to have a conversation with the board, because we didn't have a board conversation, and I'm just
I
asking.
don't believe that it merits a board conversation every single time we need to schedule a meeting. However, when I reach out to board members and they do not respond, I need to move forward, because this room needs to be reserved and Midway needs to be reserved, and people need to know what their job expectations are.
I did try calling you this weekend, and you were busy and I was busy.
I have no record of that.
I called your phone this weekend, and it went, and you weren't available. So it was also Mother's Day's weekend, and I didn't know you needed to finalize it this weekend. So
If other
Okay.
board members would like to join your discussion, that is perfectly fine. Ms. Parton, did you have something?
So I know it's an extremely busy month. I think Chair Purcell, you and I was basically pretty lenient, but my daughter's graduation is over, so I didn't have to worry about any more graduations. But I know so if there's important things apparently going on with other board members that they feel like they need to tend to, do we need to possibly look for another date at this point? I don't know.
So I think we will have a discussion on the budget next week. I think Chair Purcell reached out to all of us via text, phone, email several times. All should have responded, and 6 of 7 did, or 5 of 7, unless you didn't call it yourself. We decided on a date. If this is a meeting to meet and approve the budget that was discussed the previous meeting. I think that's the only thing that's going to be on that agenda. Is that correct? So it should be a relatively quick agenda. If somebody needs to participate electronically, that is an option. We can vote them in. That way they at least don't have the commuting time to and from the building. But I think the board leadership has been generous with trying to accommodate.
It's most definitely a busy time, but it's going to be a busy time throughout. I mean, you know, the 27th, or the 26th is right at Memorial Day. Plus, Auburn Elementary has their 5th grade graduation that night, which affects my grandchild. And then Saturday, the 30th, affects my other grandchild. Plus, if we go to Eastern Montgomery's graduation is 29th, which is your district. And Auburn's graduation is also Saturday evening, if I'm not correct, right? So we just have a busy time. So we're just going to have to really concentrate on the fact that if we get in here, we're just going to have to move forward. And the questions we need to ask them ahead of time. So that way we're not here at the meeting as we've discussed and decide to do that. And just make it quick. In which, Tosh, I didn't reply back to you, and I apologize. I do plan on going to Eastmont's, Auburn's, and Christiansburg's graduations, as usual.
Board members, any other comments, questions? Okay. I adjourn this meeting at 7:56 PM. Thank you, everyone.